We go to our next speaker, that is Jan Bergerhoff, Managing Director and co-founder at Candidate Select. So hello.
Hello. Hi,
Hello.
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, and you can see me and hear me, it
Excellent.
seems.
Yes, I can.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. So, in simple words, if I have to say, Candidate Select makes recruitment fair by comparing university degrees of different countries. But I'm sure you will explain it 100 times better as we speak through this conversation, Jan. So, but before really we go into, what Candidate Select is and your business model and everything, we would love to know more about you. So who really Jan is and how did everything in your life lead to, say, entrepreneurship? So take us through that.
Everything in my life. My God. Okay. Who is Jan? I am a 32-year-old guy. I started this company back in 2016, and prior to that, I did a PhD in economics at a German university, and it was in labor economics. And to be quite honest, when I started that PhD, I was still thinking about maybe staying in academia, doing research, becoming a postdoc, maybe one day in the distant future becoming a professor. And PhD in economics takes a very long time, 4 years, 4.5 years. And during that time, I realized that academia is not for me. I thought it was a little bit too rigid, and the progress, while very important, I thought the progress was too incremental. And then I had a conversation with friends and with other PhD students, and the startup topic or the startup theme was just emerging at the time. And we thought about ideas and we brainstormed about ideas. And because we did a PhD in labor economics, we had a lot to do with data from the labor market and with grades. And our intuition was that there is something seriously going wrong in the labor market, because we felt that people spend so much time, so much money, so much effort at university. The average German student takes 5 years to finish university, and then they get a grade, they get a piece of paper with a number on it, and they go to the employer, and the employer in most cases says, yeah, looks good, maybe useful, maybe not so useful. It's very difficult for them to actually understand the information that they're presented with. Why is it so difficult? Because there are so many different study programs. There's 480 universities and polytechnical schools in Germany, and you can study different things at those institutions. So when you look at all the combinations of what you can study and what subject you can study, you get to 30,000 different combinations. And no recruiter in the world, also no German recruiter can maintain an overview of all these different programs. And then when you follow me and take a step beyond that and think about people from other countries, India, of course, but also some European countries, it's the complication just grows exponentially. And yeah, that we thought that it's a big pity, basically, that those degrees and the information contained in those degrees cannot really properly be understood. And at the same time, we felt that problem was fixable, and it can be fixed by using data on grading, on competitiveness of programs. And I have some slides and I will share them with you. In fact, I will share my screen because I want to give you a small demonstration of what making this assessment actually looks like. And then I'm going to dive into how we managed to come up with something for India and what role GINZEP played in this, because it was quite a substantial role. So I will share my screen now, and I hope that this works. Okay, this is some appointments that you're not supposed to see. So I will put it to one side, and if you don't see it, please interrupt me, then I will try to fix it. But now you should be seeing, if everything goes well, a slide where there are a couple of heads flying into the air, because this is the topic of today. We want to check how you can assess academic achievement. This is the metaphor for today. And moreover, and on top of that, we want to see what we could do for India and what our startup story together with GINZEP was for India. And when I was thinking on how to do this, I thought I could show you a couple of slides and explain how the German product worked, so that you get an impression of what we really do. But then I decided against it, and I thought it's much more instructive if we instead just look at how it actually works in practice. And so now I'm sharing my my browser with you, and you see a form. And we're going to do it for Germany in the beginning, but then we're going to talk about India, and we're also going to do it for India in a moment. But just imagine you are an employer, or maybe you're a graduate, and you come from a university, for example, the University of Bonn. Of course, I already had that filled in, so typing it now is maybe a little bit redundant, but still. So you have somebody who did University of Bonn, studied the bachelor from a certain year, maybe 2018, and then there are so many different subject areas you could have done this in. These are actually only the subject areas you could study in Bonn for the bachelor in this year, because this is already linked to our database. And just for argument's sake, suppose the person studied math, very clever person apparently, and the grade was a 2.0. So the German education system goes from 1 to 4. 1 is a very good grade, 4 is not such a good grade, and 2 is, depending on which program you are, a sort of average good grade. And what you can do is you can basically analyze it immediately. You get all the context information at a click of a button. So here you have our hypothetical candidate had a 2.0 in math in Bonn, and we know that the average grade in the program was a 2.02. So this actually is quite an average grade. So the person sit up 43%. 43% of people were better locally in the program, and 57 were less good. I can tell you that if you go into different programs, there are some programs where the grades are super good for everyone. So there are German study programs with an average grade of 1.3. In those cases, such a grade would not have been very good. And there are some programs with an average grade of 2.9, in which case this would have been very, very excellent. In Bonn, it is more average. And this is the first piece of information that we deliver. We give grade distributions, and then after that, we also make a judgment on where the person stands compared to other students, first in his or her own subject area, and then overall. And so this person who is average here in the program in math in Bonn, we judge that person to be a top 21% of all the math students in Germany, and at top 8% of all the students overall. Why this change? Math in Bonn is probably the best mathematics faculty in the country. And what we do here in order to make a quantitative judgment is we have done a lot of IQ tests with people in Bonn, for example, but also in other programs. And we actually use IQ results to basically make these changes and to put them on one common scale. And of course, in a way, when you see this for the first time, you may think this is our opinion, or it's the result of an algorithm. But how do I benefit from this? What we do is we go to different companies, we go to different universities, and we make some studies where we can show that these numbers which come out of the algorithm here, they can actually predict something, and they're useful. And so they predict job performance, they predict interview performance, assessment center performance, things that employers may be interested in. This is what we do for Germany. And now the question is, what can you do for India? Because if I open this ribbon here, you see that there's a number of other countries, and one of them is India. And I'm very, very happy to have India here. And it is also thanks to GINZEP largely that we managed to find and to extend it to India. Why were we so keen on doing it for India? Well, if you look at the left-hand side here, you see that the number of students in Germany has gone up from 1.7 million in the 1990s to almost 3 million by the 2020. But if you compare this with what has been going on in India, the change is almost invisible. The number of students that now study are enrolled in tertiary education in India is so much greater than it is in Germany. And so it goes up to almost 40 million in 2020. And I put a statistic here, the tertiary enrollment ratio, which is at 25% in India at the moment. If India follows the path of, for example, China, then this will also move up towards 50%, and that means it will double yet again, and we will have almost 80 million students in India. And as Stefan said previously, that is just a huge untapped or largely untapped resource of talent and creativity and skills that is almost too much for the Indian labor market to handle itself. How many jobs do you have to create in order to give all those people opportunities? And at the same time, our population here is aging and shrinking, and there are many companies that are really looking for skilled, mostly skilled people from the STEM subjects, from the engineering, math, natural sciences subjects. And we thought there's a big, basically mismatch with a lot of talent on the one hand side and a lot of demand for talent on the other hand side, and we wanted to bridge that gap. And as a matter of fact, we have customers like, for example, the Deutsche Post DHL. When they publish a job requisition in English, they get every fourth, sometimes every third application from India. And so it's very relevant for them how to deal with Indian applications, and also then extended how to deal with Indian higher education degrees. What do they mean? What is it compared to a German higher education degree? And so we were very motivated to find this data and to basically build and improve something. And maybe we were even a little too motivated, as you can see here. We were at the Bangalore Tech Summit together with GINSEP. And you can see this very professional sign, which we attached to the GINSEP pavilion, which we had to take down on the request of the German ministry, I think, who paid for the pavilion, because it, of course, was not very representative. But we really wanted to find this data in India, and some people saw it and some people approached us, and we had a lot of good conversations. We really benefited from all the support from GINSEP, but also the different stakeholders from the economics ministry, the German, from the embassy, from the Außenhandelskammer. That was really helpful. For example, they brought us together with Indian politicians. Here you see the Minister for Economics and I think Sugar in the state of Karnataka, K.C. George, and we had a lot of meetings. We learned how the structure in India works. We started talking to the University Grants Commission in India, although they never started to talk back to us. But we had a lot of different attempts, and in the end, we finally found something that worked. And I'm very grateful for that, because I'm not sure we would have managed it without all the different support that we got. And what is that thing? Lo and behold, what changed the game in the end? Well, we want to understand how competitive Indian programs are, for example, compared to German programs. And in order to do that, we typically try two things. We try to find grade distributions in order to understand how good a person was locally in a given study program. And as the second part, we try to rank the competitiveness. And for competitiveness in Germany, we use IQ tests. But in India, we did not have the opportunity to go back to IQ test samples, but we found something else. And this something else is the university entrance exams that you guys in India have to participate in if you want to study a STEM subject at an Indian university. And as you see here on the left-hand side, this is an overview of the different states. And on the right-hand side, you see an overview of the different exams that you have to take in the states. And yeah, roughly half of the states, they use the JEE mains exam, and the other half, this half is including some very, very big states like Uttar Pradesh, they use their own kind of exam. And just to give people who are unfamiliar an impression, on the right-hand side, you see a sample question from one of those exams. I'm sure we have some math boons in the audience who will shout out the correct answer right away. I just want to have that example to show you that such a test is not easy. This kind of university entrance exam is very difficult, is at least comparable to a natural science-based German Abitur exam, and to be very good in such an exam is much, much more difficult, because the competition of very intelligent and very motivated people in India is much higher than we are used to here, for example. And to stress that point, the average admission rate for elite institutions in India tends to be below 2%. And you have some places like Christian Medical College in Law that has an admissions rate of 0.25%. And if you want to compare this to Western institutions, then you have like the Ivy League institutions, for example, they have admission rates at around 8%. So it is much more difficult, at least in terms of admission rates, to get into the elite institutions in India than to get into elite institutions in the West. And I'm not sure that this fact is always recognized by recruiting departments over here. They know Indian institutes of technology. Those ones, they come up in things like the Times Higher Education ranking, but India has about 10,000 higher education institutions. And the Indian Institutes of Technology and the Indian Institutes of National Importance, they're just the tip of the iceberg. They are very good and a very pretty tip of the iceberg, but there's so much more on the subcontinent of India. And what we did is we went to the different states and we looked at the different government resources, and we found a lot of PDF documents. And these PDF documents, they look a little bit like this. So you have an institute, and then what the course was and the type of exam that people had to take, and then you see what the cutoff was, what rank people needed to have in order to be admitted into a course like this. And based on these ranks, we have basically ranked the different Indian programs, so that when you come from a top Indian program and you apply to a German company, but with the increasing internationalization of us also to maybe soon an American company, then you come from a top program, you apply, then you will not get disregarded anymore, just because the recruiter doesn't know how good the place really was. That is the thing that we really want to achieve with this. And I'm very happy because we managed to rank 14,603 different programs from the STEM area. And that is a huge improvement over the status quo, because the status quo is, as I said, 50, 60 odd places that come up in different rankings. This is far more comprehensive, and I think it was probably time that we managed this. And yeah, also because of the help of GINSAP, we are very happy that we can now make a tick to India here, where we have now taken in India as one of the case family countries, for places where we actually have data to produce a K-score. And before we look at this, I will also mention one other thing that we did, because we wanted to combine it with some assessment that was already there. There is a German institution which has a very long and long-winded and bureaucratic name. It's called ZAB. That is a short one, but it stands for Zentralstelle Ausländisches Bildungswesen, which is a word that you can forget right away. But they have a database, and they do some simple assessments of different institutions, and that is also very relevant for you if you want to come. If you are in India right now and you want to come to Germany, you want to work in Germany, then one important question is: will your higher education degree be recognized? Will it be recognized as an equivalent as being equivalent to a German degree. And this database basically gives you part of the answer. So it has a lot of information on all kinds of different institutions. And what we've basically done is we have connected both our data sources. So we use what we have here at CASE based on the university entrance exams, and we combine it now with all the information that BZHB has. And with this, we can do two things. We can, first of all, help employers to really quickly understand which application is super promising and which may not be. And on the other hand, we will also have something for Indian graduates as well, where you can put in your degree and you get a feedback on your degree. And if everything works well, you also get into a talent pool, and we will make you some suggestions of where to go or what to look at if you like to work in Germany, for example. And without much further ado, let me just briefly show you how this works now. So next to Germany, we now have this India ribbon, and let me just put in an example institution. I've picked the Birla Institute of Technology and Science, and suppose you did the bachelor in a year 2021 and you did it in engineering. Here we use matching technology, so if you can put in your free text, but we will match it to the subject automatically. And suppose you graduated with an 8, and then what happens is you can add it, and like in Germany as well, you will get a K-score, right? And employers and you yourself, you can use this K-score to then apply and or to have a first impression of the person that is in front of you. And I think this is very, now I have to find the right slide again, sorry about that. I think this is very timely, or it is important that we make that transition, or that these kind of technologies are slowly becoming more and more available, because there's a huge amount of opportunity for Indian talent in a country like Germany. And also the German government has very much recognized that. I know that the Federal Agency for Work, where also Stefan is working at, that they really support the initiative of getting foreign people with higher education degrees that have a lot of skills from foreign countries, and also especially from India. And because this is now a very prominent topic, we have the initiative that is called Make It in Germany, and some of the regulations that used to be in place have been relaxed. So it's not necessary anymore that German employers hire German applicants specifically. Indians can work in all areas, not only in shortage occupations, and the wage that you have to prove that you earn is much lower than it used to be before. And so we hope that this overall will lead to a much more integrated labor market between Germany and India. But of course, I really believe in global labor markets. So I also hope that overall the global labor market will become much more integrated, so that everybody can go and work where she or he is needed the most, or just wants to have their focus point of living. And maybe to finish, one last thing that I want to show you is that we are now in the process to not only offer it to people, to employers in Germany, but we are also doing a certificate, a product for graduates too, so where you can provide your university degree, we give you feedback, and then you will be part of an international talent pool. This one we are building at the moment. If you go to case-core.in, you will already find a version. I think we will continue to polish that even a little bit better, and in the next months this will become an increasingly big offering. And to give you an impression, at the moment we already do this for Germany. So German students come to us, they provide their certificate, they get feedback from us on their certificate, and they get into a talent pool. And we currently have about 20,000 people in our German talent pool. And what then happens is that companies like McKinsey or Simon Kucher or large industrial companies like the Deutsche Telekom. They ask us to send offers into our talent pool. They look at who do we really need, what did they study, what was their scoring, and then we make offers for jobs or for company presentations, and these invitations are then being provided to all the members of our talent pool. And being a member of the talent pool is free for you. The business model works with the companies that then want to get to know you. And so I hope that overall this will be very beneficial and one further building block in making everything more united, making everything more integrated, and to help German companies use the huge amount of talent in India, and on the other hand, use Indian talent to use all the career opportunities that present themselves in Germany. With that, thank you very much. It was a big privilege to be here at GINSEP, at the Indo-German Startup Week from GINSEP today, and I'm very much looking forward to questions.
Thank you, Jan. That was indeed a very insightful overview of your product, and great to know that so much has already happened and so much research you've already done. We definitely have some follow-up questions. You already touched upon where your product is in the next phase and with the talent pool, etc. But one of the question is that at present, are you working more with companies or candidates, and how does the business model or revenue model look like at present?
Yeah, at the moment we are mostly a B2B company, so we are mostly working with companies, and the biggest part of what we do is offering the diagnostics to German companies. That would be sort of the biggest market we are in, and but the business with the candidates and also introducing the candidates to the companies is growing fast. We just started this about a year ago, and it's going very well. I don't know, who knows what the future holds. Maybe it will overtake the other business at some point.
Okay, and then here's another one. So we all know that dealing with data is like a nightmare, and especially when it comes to also the old institutions or universities in India. So how difficult was it for you to collect this data from India as compared to your other the other countries that you work with, and what was your approach there?
To be very honest, it was more difficult. It was really difficult. We took 2.5 years, I think, to basically finish this, and we would not have finished this without the help of some locals who had a lot of knowledge of the Indian education system, had a lot of knowledge of. I learned over the time that there's a lot of institutions, a lot of players in the Indian education system, and they all have acronyms. Yeah, they all have little and I got really confused. I had a couple of colleagues who were working on this, and sometimes they try to discuss things and report things, and then they mentioned all the different acronyms, and I really got my head spinning trying to understand what was what and how things are connected. It was difficult. The documents were sometimes inconsistent. The documents were formatted in special ways, but it's no problems that are detrimental. And I think we were very determined, and also the colleagues who were working on it did a great job and were very determined, and we pulled through, and I'm ever so much more happy that we now have a nice, clean database where all this data is in.
That's very politely answered, I must say. And also, what about particularly digitization? What difference did you see in digital documentation in India and probably Germany or other countries that you were working with?
So one difference was that, one difference in our case was that many things came as very long PDF documents, where like big reports that also had been put together with quite some care, when it would have been much more easy to just have some kind of a database or some table and some. That is the difference. Many other countries, sometimes they provide those reports, but then if you want to know what the numbers are, you're not necessarily forced to get them out of those reports, but you can download them somewhere, or you can at least they send them to you. We noticed that it's very difficult to actually get talking to Indian government institutions, and we at some point restricted ourselves to take those things that were there, and that was either the publications from the different states, and also we looked at some research papers that did some work on Indian higher education, and we also used some of their things. Yeah.
Okay, phenomenal job there. And I think this question is from audience. So pretty much related to the title of your talk. It says that how long was your journey from the idea to building the product? And I think maybe this question comes considering you have, come a long way and already now so much is happening. So this founder wants to know just how long does it usually take to build something like this?
Yeah, I think so. The beginning, I already pitched this idea to Julian when we were talking about going to Bangalore. There was an application for that, and that was already part of it. And that was in 2018. And when I went to Bangalore, I had a lot of different conversations, etc. And I came home and we tried to work on it a little bit. And then my verdict was, it's not possible. It won't happen. We won't have it. And it got revived. It got really revived when we got some people who had deep knowledge of the Indian education system actually working for us. That was what changed it in the end. And so the whole journey, I would say 2.5 years, maybe approaching 3. Yeah.
Okay, but it gets faster in the second phase, right? Now that you are elevating your product and okay, that's fair. And there is another one, I think this is more from the recruitment side, that what do you recommend to recruiters who are hiring talent from India and using your platform?
Yeah, so 2 things, I think. First of all, I've shown you the platform because that is the way to basically get a feeling for how the product works, the easiest and the best. But many companies actually, they don't use the platform, but they have just a connection to their own IT systems. So basically you have an application coming in into your applicant tracking system, and you get that information from case automatically into your data. And then my recommendation when you have that information is to basically, if you're a German company, check whether this is somebody who has a very good case score, maybe it's a top 25% case score. And if that is the case, really spend some time. You will hear in the talk from Jana Köhler later, which is also a very good talk, which I've also I've spoken with her before, and she has some very good information and good hints that there are differences in culture when it comes to applications between Germany and India, and of course there's the visa problem, etc., etc. So if you want to really take hiring somebody from India seriously, you need to invest some time. You need to really get to understand the person. And what our product enables you to do is to very quickly identify the people where you should really spend some time on. And what happens at the moment too frequently is that the applications from India are too often disregarded because of all the troubles, all the problems that in terms of bureaucracy and in terms of foreignness of CVs, that too frequently disregarded. And we want to basically stop that and tell you, okay, don't disregard that application, have a look at it. Yeah.
Okay, great tips. And this one seems like a follow-up. Can you give us an example where a company benefited from candidate select by using the platform, and earlier they had problems while hiring?
Yeah, so the product for India is in the market. So I'm happy that customers are using it as we speak. So Indian applications to our customers are being evaluated as we speak. For this Indian scoring, and this is, I think, a little too fresh to have direct customer feedback. But what I can tell you is that, for example, our oldest customer is a company called Simon Kucher and Partners. That is a consulting company located in Bonn. And what we did is we looked at their consultants and how the consultants performed in different projects and whether they got promoted or not. And at a consultancy, often you have it that there's a certain scheduling for promotions. So that is also the case at that company. And every half a year, the junior consultants should be promoted, and every 12 months, the more senior consultants should be promoted. And what we can see is that people who have a very good case score, so they have a strong university background, as we score it, as we judge it, essentially, they get promoted 90% of the time. And people who are not so strong get promoted 50% of the time. So there is if you do place some weight, I'm not saying this should be the only thing that somebody looks at, but there is evidence that if you take context information of those grades into account, you will make better decisions, and those better decisions will lead you to have people who are a little bit stronger in your organization.
Okay. And so definitely a lot is happening here. I'm not sure if this question is directed to you or probably, but this person says, I'm looking for a job in Germany. If you had to give tips to a job seeker, what would you what would you suggest me?
If you if you were very good at university, you're very happy with your education background, I definitely recommend you to get our certificate, which is the link. It's case-score.in. This is the India product. It is something we're building at the moment. It is evolving, but it is free. And I can promise you that we take it seriously, and we will try to build something around that. On top of that, I would really recommend you to listen to the talk of Jana, which is still coming up, because she is advising people in your position every day, and she has a lot of experience both from the recruiter side and also from the applicant side, and she can give you a lot of hints and ideas of what you should do, maybe with your CV, with how you should understand the communication that is coming back from the German companies, so that you're the different, that is not so much lost in translation, just because there are some cultural differences and differences, frankly, in what people are used to.
Yeah. Okay, great tips there. And here we have another founder question. I'm trying to build an HR startup for a long time. You have built it successfully, it seems. Okay, definitely you have. So the question is that if the market is very competitive, how do you differentiate yourself, and how do you deal with competition which you might have with your business, with your competitors?
Yeah, I don't know whether the speaker wanted to found it in India or whether he wanted to found it in Germany. In general, my impression is that the HR startup scene is very competitive. So there's a lot of people who try to push different ideas, and that recruiting departments really have a lot of pitches, etc., every day that they have to go through, or that they look at. And the biggest thing, I think, is always tenacity. So you need to stick to it, right? You need to, if you believe in the idea and if you want to push it forward, then you have to talk to a lot of people. You have to get a lot of no's, and just be very persistent. I wouldn't. So from one thing that is maybe a bit unique with us is that no other company has been doing what we're doing. So this is currently still a very much unique approach, and that has advantages and disadvantages. I think to start it off in the very beginning, it's even better if you have some product that other people already know, and where they have a certain idea of what the price is and what they get back from it, and this is actually quite advantageous. But then, of course, as you said, you also have competition, and yeah, so we did not have to deal so much with competition so far, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going to happen. Yeah.
So it's the first mover sort of advantage for you in this case particularly. Okay. So probably yes, if be the first mover, otherwise differentiate it, do it so well that people don't go to others. Probably that could be the answer. And
Yeah.
I think with that we had a lot of questions and we are done with that. But Jan, I think probably on a concluding note, we have Indian and German founders here, and also probably a lot of job seekers uh, and corporates in our audience. And what would you want them in 2 lines to take away from your talk today?
In 2 lines, I want you to take away that we all benefit from a more global labor market, that it may be difficult at first to take a plunge into a different country, but that it will be worth it in the end.
Wow, beautifully put. Thank you so much for joining us, Jan. And it was great to know about your business idea and what you're doing on ground to connect Germany and India together, and also so many nice things about GINSEP. These stories always bring a smile to our face. And thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.